Well, greetings, and it's great to be back with you today. Thanks for joining us on another episode of Lightbulb Moments, episode number 140. We're pleased to be back with you after a bit of a break. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to check out past Lightbulb Moments episodes. And it's also a podcast, so we'd love to have you subscribe to listen to some past episodes. We'll review a few of them in a moment. I'm Tom Kuhn. I'm host and curator of Lightbulb Moments. What is a lightbulb moment? Well, it is a moment, a special moment. It's one where there's a sudden realization, an enlightenment, or some inspiration, and usually one that causes you to take some action. Remember, you can't start a fire without a spark. Hopefully today and in these sessions at Lightbulb Moments, you get a spark, whether it's an idea, it's a thought, connection, whether it's through some of the things we share with you or from our guests or some of the insights you might just have on your own. At Qnity, we're here to help create a simpler path towards greater prosperity. And remember to prosper, manage your ATM, the three currencies we have in life: attention, time, and money. And thank you for spending your precious time with us today. We love hearing from you. So if you have a light bulb moment of your own, submit it on our website. Reach out to me personally if you like. If you have a suggestion for a guest, or maybe you want to be a guest, let us know. This is all about having conversations. Our guest today, speaking of a conversation, is going to be Inez Gray, who's owner of the Habitude salons in the greater Seattle area. I'll give a little bit more of an introduction to Inez in a little bit, but the topic is one I love to talk about, and that is about an owner letting go. We talk a lot about go, but what about letting go? And somehow Inez has been able to figure out how to take off 1 week a month for the last 2 years. So I'm going to be all ears on this episode. All right, check out recent episodes. Our most recent episode was with Leon Alexander. And the conversation with Leon really centered to a great degree on a topic he doesn't talk about as much. He probably should talk about more. And that is coming from his direct expertise as a designer and working in salons, and what types of trends we're seeing with space, more space, less space, how it's utilized. And so I really love the conversation with Leon. Check it out. We also had very recent guests, Daniel Johnson and Hannah Craik, from the Green Beauty Collective. We also had John DeJulius on very recently. We had Melissa Kubiak. We had Kelly Eilers. We had Roderick Samuels as guests. And then one of the recurring things that happens during these Lightbulb Moment sessions is I will talk about options to grow, go, or let go. So we do sometimes touch on succession planning, which is a good segue into a workshop we have coming up on succession planning. I'll get to that in a moment. Also, check out Money O2 episodes by Erin Kuhn-Bensali. She has had some amazing guests, very focused on money stories. And check this podcast out. They are great listen. It's quite a body of work that is coming in these podcasts. And it's pretty amazing to hear stories from inside and outside the industry. Some upcoming dates. We've got some February programs coming up. We've got Execution SBO and the Growth Workshop. The Growth Workshop is a brand new version of our legacy program, and it is amazing. It's quite an upgrade. Both of these events will happen in Austin, Texas in February. Then we also have dates in April and throughout the year. We also are starting a group of Money SBO. This is actually new and added to the calendar. It's actually not on the slide here, but coming up in February, we're going to launch a new Money SBO group. So those are 3 core curriculums addressing profitability, growth, and execution. And then I'm doing a special master class, a succession master class on February 18th, also in Austin. So we've got a lot of programs sort of centered in Austin in mid-February, and then back in either Minneapolis or, Minnesota or Austin, Texas throughout the year. Our conference, The Fill, is deep in planning stage, May 19th through 21st, also in Austin, Texas. And then this weekend, coming up just in a matter of days, we're pleased to be part of, as we usually are, Serious Business. We are going to be there as an exhibitor. And then we also have Candice Gliotto and Jared Sanders. Jared is from Lightheart Sanders, who's a sponsor of Lightbulb Moments. Candice is a Qnity's Director of Training and Development and also a salon owner. They're going to be doing a brand new program at Serious Business called the Reluctant CFO. And then Aaron Kuhn-Bensali is going to be doing a workshop on financial wellness. So, and then finally, one other thing that's new is we are in the process of curating our circle groups, which are vetted groups of individuals that want to address three challenges that many of us have. One is making sure you hang with the right people. 99% of our success is who we associate with. So this is an opportunity to be with market leaders. That's number one. Number two, just the need to be connected. Many times it kind of feels lonely. And number three is to get best practices and ideas that come from others. So you'll be hearing a lot more about Circle in upcoming months. So my lipo moment this week is, I'll keep it brief because I really want to get to Inez, but I had an international trip, which is one of the reasons why we weren't on last week. And I had several insights from this trip, which was to Ireland. And I was part of the Forest Conference. I was there as a speaker, and then also we had a workshop. And it was a lot of salons from England. What I realized is that, boy, if we think we have some challenges over here in the States when it comes to things like recruiting staff and retaining staff, and I'll tell you, when I share the earnings numbers, the U.S. compared to England, I mean, this is definitely a higher tier career in the U.S., which I think is because it's licensed in the U.S. The other thing is, they are experiencing a lot of challenges, perception versus reality challenges. So in the United Kingdom, so it's not just in the United States where there is a perception versus reality issue about a career in the professional beauty industry, but we see that it crosses the pond. And we've actually engaged in conversations with the leading CPA in England that specializes in salons, and then also the leader as it relates to combining a bunch of associations to really address critical issues that affect the industry. So it's really cool to start to work together globally on some of these issues that we think are local, but also address some of the things that we have going for us in the U.S. as a career in beauty. So some things to appreciate, but also some fire still in the belly about changing the perception about a career. The other thing is that another big aha that I personally had is the power of the 9 grid. You know, so many of us really take for granted the 9 grid, and I was just blown away because we introduced the 9 grid to a whole new audience, and it was just like they had received this special, it is a very special tool, but we all kind of take it for granted. And it was really fascinating to see salon owners and managers mainly made up of from like England and the UK and Scotland, and how they are now embracing the 9 grid to create crucial change in their personal and professional life. So it was really amazing trip, a great way to kick off the year. And I will shout out to Forest as a tech company. They did a fantastic job creating a very engaging event. It was a wonderful summit, and I was proud to be part of it. Okay, so I'm sure I've got lots more light bulb moments, but what I want to do next is I want to introduce and bring to the camera Inez Gray from Habitude. And just a few comments about you, Inez. Good morning.
Good morning.
She's the dedicated visionary behind Habitude, Seattle's premier salon and day spa. Nearly 3 decades of diverse and well-rounded commitment to the beauty industry. She solidified herself as a prominent figure in the business and community, and she will solidify herself today as a member of the Brain Trust for Lightbulb Moments. So this is the first time I get to have you on as a guest.
Yep.
And How do you do it?
I'm good.
How do you take a week off every month and keep doing it is the $10,000 question we're going to get to today, right?
Yes.
All right. Let's unpack this a little bit more methodically because
Okay.
I think the journey your journey is super interesting, and I think I mean, your journey goes back, as we suggested, some different decades, but we're really looking at a journey like over the last few years. So kind of give us
Um,
just a brief synopsis of maybe where you're at, like post-COVID, you were fried, and so let's deal with sort of the before factor.
yeah. Well, prior to COVID, we had, 95 employees. We were really cooking and we'd seen a lot of growth and we had a real stable management team. And then, that sort of all collapsed when COVID hit. And we did a great job through COVID. We retained a lot of our team. We were open. We had great response from guests. And I think because we were a bigger location, people felt like our safety measures were, they were comfortable coming. It was very difficult, and so I was on fire. I love a crisis. I mean, I've had floods and fires, and that's always when I shine. But once it was over, I was fried. I'd put on about 50 pounds. I was drinking a bottle of wine a night. I'm a single mom. All my kids had moved home. I was just completely overwhelmed by the whole thing. And so I decided that I needed to rejuvenate, get healthy, so I went into my calendar one day and I blocked out a week every month. And that was 20 months ago. And so I've had 20 weeks off in the last 20 months.
20 weeks off. Now, I want to dig in a little bit. When you
Mhm.
say off, what is an off week? I mean,
What
you're
an
not going to
off
keep,
is
yeah.
is that I either am going to a conference and then extending the conference, 4 or 5 days in whatever town I am. I've done a lot of yoga retreating. I've done some international travel. I have also just stayed home and painted my downstairs and purged my attic. And I am on Slack, which is the communication system that we use. But I'm just watching. I'm a voyeur on Slack. I don't really respond to what's happening there, but I am definitely connected. And then my management team knows if I'm out of the country or far away that every day at 5, I will check my messages in case the place is blown up or something.
So you established your boundaries here.
Yeah,
And so your off weeks, in many cases, you were not present in your community. You were traveling or you were deep in a
mhm,
project.
yeah,
And you do keep your Slack channel on, but what you're saying is that it'd be rare for you to weigh in, right?
yeah,
And then you got the 5 p.m. sort of like, hey, if you need me in emergency, that's when I'll check in.
yeah. And I don't
Now,
call or anything. I at 5, I look and see if anyone needs me real bad.
so that's a pretty dramatic just kind of jump in, both feet. I mean, it's not like, take a Friday off once a month or a Thursday and a Friday
Yeah.
off. I mean, that's like a complete week off. What was the initial, you made this decision and essentially just announced it to your management team, is that correct?
Well, yeah, I had been studying this idea. I'd been doing a lot of self-helpy kind of reading, and I'd came across this idea called essentialism,
Yep.
which is doing what's essential. And so that kind of led me to on a path to try to figure out what was essential to me and to the business. And so I began to look at that and explore that idea, and which we can talk about if you want to. And then at a certain point, I told the team that I was going to need this time off to in order to follow this path. And I started by having we meet together. There's 6 people on my management team, and we meet every other Tuesday. So I started things like putting one of them in charge of the meeting every time instead of me leading the meeting, those kinds of things. So there was a bit of an amp up to get them ready to, because what it used to happen is when I was away on the day of a meeting, they just wouldn't have one.
Mm.
So that needed to continue to happen even if I wasn't there.
So there's definitely a transition period. This isn't like flipping a switch on. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure that those first, I don't know how many months were really trying to figure it out. So you just sort of drew a line in the sand. I'm not going to be, and we're going to figure out the details as we go. Is that a
Yeah.
fair statement?
Yeah, I would say that's pretty fair. Yeah,
What
that's
was what was the reaction of the management team, and how, kind of take me through that journey. So you have the beginning period, and then they started to develop their own groove. Is that right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I was doing a lot of work on the 3 weeks that I was there. I was doing a lot of cleanups and purging and, developing the list of all the things I needed to, all the pain points, when they needed me, the mistakes that were happening, the repeated customer challenges, the repeated staff challenges. Every time they had to ask me a question, I was keeping track of all of that because that when they needed me was when they needed me, and I hadn't created systems for them to make those decisions and or to clean up those messes. I just kept saying, I felt like I was just saying this. I'm saying this again. I've said this for 27 years. Why do I have to continue to repeat? And there's something cool about being the expert and being to swoop in and save the day and have the answer, um, because we've done this so long. We're experts, and so someone comes and asks you a questions and we know exactly how to handle it. And they're like, oh, thank you so much. But I felt like I wanted to start teaching that so that they could make that decision on their own. And we
So
talked about them. I'd rather have them, make 10 mistakes than not try at all. And so they were going to have to start making the decisions on their own, even if that meant that I might have done it differently.
So, I often talk about strategic byproducts, like the unintended outcomes from some big change. And this big change had some strategic byproducts like developing systems. Because I
Uh-huh.
think if I heard you right, is what you did is you sort of kept this log of things that kept coming up, and you thought, oh, if it's on my log, if that same thing comes up for the last 27 years, you mentioned a few times, that's so you were insightful enough not only to be off for the week, but to say, okay, what's coming up? Let me keep a listen at it. And that's really where we need to create systems. Is that it? Did I
Right.
summarize what?
Yeah, yeah. So there's definitely was this whole process of discovery.
Yeah.
And I discovered what those things were that I needed to work on by like I looked back at all of our meeting agendas, and almost every meeting, the front desk was screwing up the discounts, which was becoming a problem for finance and HR and clients. And I was like, what is going on with the discounts? Why can't we get the discounts right? Are the managers not training? Are they just lazy? All these reasons. And then finally, I don't work at the desk ever. So finally I went down there and, stood in Kaizen, stood right there. And we had 64 discounts, Tom.
Wow.
Now we have 12.
Okay.
So the reason was not because people were lazy or weren't being trained. It's because the discounts hadn't been purged for 27 years. So that's just a small example, but now the discount is off the agenda. It's not a problem. It's easy. It makes sense.
It's a great and a very specific example, and I love it. And
Mhm.
so I'm thinking of owners out there that want to let go in the sense, I mean, maybe for they want to do is instead of 5 days behind the chair, they're two, or I mean 3 or 4, or they're 4 days behind the chair, they're down to two, or maybe not behind the chair at all. That's a big motivator. And what's interesting to me is that for 27 years, you didn't do this.
Uh-huh.
But I think it might have been the motivator. It's like, hey, if I'm going to take the week off, I've got to figure this thing
Right.
out. So it's sort of a weird, not a weird way, interesting way to address challenges and say, okay, for me to keep my time off, this area keeps coming up. I've got to get a handle on this. I got to take ownership on front desk discounts. I got to do an assessment. And now here you go. And what a great example to go from 64 to
Well,
12. Yeah.
yeah. Well, and I think, the other thing is the onesie twosie days off thing. I mean, that doesn't work really. I mean, you get up, you check your emails, you're still in it. You are really escaping. Um, and it wasn't working for me. And so I would rather be really on it for 3 weeks, my mind just like working long hours, strategizing, fixing things rather than just being a fireman of all the problems, and then have that week where I can completely check out and rejuvenate and do something really healthy for myself.
So you were kind enough to share with me uh, some of the images that came up that you had. And yes, the book, Jared Sanders made a note here. I think many people are familiar with the Essentialism, A
Uh,
Body of Work, and Greg, I think it's pronounced McCowan. I
uh,
actually have the book. Um, and it really, another way of looking at this is simplicity. We say that there's one word that gives you the action steps towards simplicity, that's eliminate.
mhm.
So
Yeah,
you strategically eliminated things due to essentialism, whatever, and that creates a much simpler business model. And we know
right,
that simpler businesses are more profitable and all that kind of stuff.
right.
So I'm looking at the list of your sort of your notes that you were using, and you
Yeah,
have all of these things that are do nots,
yeah,
like marketing. May I?
yeah.
Can I read just a couple? And
Sure,
so,
go for it.
so,
Yeah.
so, so what I'm looking at, our friends out there, is a list by Inez, which is essentially by functions. There it is. Marketing, human capital, operations, and finance. We probably have education there too. And I'm just going to pick marketing because you have under marketing. This is really interesting. I'm kind of having my own light bulb moment here. It's
Uh-huh.
almost like the Qnity 5 functions, of which our whole operating model is based upon that, is a really good way to attack this.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Yeah.
Marketing, you say, do not promote color corrections, do not promote weddings, do not do makeup or extensions or lashes or perms, do not get a new logo website or redesign the bags.
Yes.
So you had 4 under marketing.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, this was an early list. I mean, since then we've eliminated the other marketing things, but yeah, I mean, the most customer challenges were coming from some of these things. We needed a new makeup line. I looked forever. Then I looked at the numbers and we've never really had a huge makeup business. And so I decided, why are we even doing this? And for us, times have changed. People are going to the department store, learning to do their own makeup on Instagram, it wasn't worth it to bring in a new line. So we decided not to.
Let me
And it
share.
took 15 minutes to go into the website and remove makeup from it and
And
put
how
the
did
makeup on sale.
and how did that feel when you were done with that?
Awesome. Everyone was like, yes, I never have to do another makeup.
All right, let me give some of your human capital ones. I think this is precious, okay?
Uh-huh.
All right, human capital. Do not hire back. Do not have non-revenue generating managers. Do not hire divas.
Mhm.
Do not have wobbly policies. Do not offer advances. Do not make promises. I'm hitting a few of the other ones. Any comments about any of those?
Yeah, I mean, that was something that always came up that I needed to be there for was, so and so's clutch went out. Can they, have a draw? And, I just decided that we offer one a year and that can be decided by the manager. It has to be under, it can be no more than half of what their paycheck will be, and then we'll take it out into lumps. So just having policies around those kinds of things. And it also is much better that way because we have a policy that the team understands. And so it's not, well, does Inez like me or not, which is kind of how it felt before. So that's one of the examples. Non-revenue generating managers, all of my managers are behind the chair or in the treatment rooms, with the
Wow.
exception of my operations manager, but she works desk shifts too. I just don't think for my company, even at 120 people at the height of heads, that there's 40 hours worth of work managing. I just never felt like there was.
So you also had some taglines that you shared with me, and you
Uh-huh.
have to help me with some of these, okay?
Okay.
A few people's favorite whiskey instead of everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah. Well, I just think that we can't appeal to every guest. We
Yeah.
can't appeal to every staff member, to every hairdresser, to every, um, I think a lot of times as you become a sort of a master owner, you've been doing it a long time. It's always about the brag, like we do this and we do this and we do this and we do this. And for me, it's okay to have a list of all the things we don't do now. And if clients don't like some of the things that we're doing, then we're not their place. If staff don't like some of the things we're doing, then we're not their place. And so I use the analogy of whiskey because, at some point, if you're making those choices, you can be a little bit of a maverick, like people kind of don't understand, like Inez is different. What is she doing over there? And so I'd rather be people's favorite whiskey instead of everyone's cup of tea, I guess.
Mhm. Um, so let's look at the finance function. But before we get to that, part of the punchline, all of that is, so is the business now more valuable? Is it more valuable now? Or was it more valuable before you started this journey?
Oh, definitely more valuable now. I mean, it's more valuable to me because if I can't leave it, I don't want it.
Mm,
Number one. And it's more valuable to a future owner if I were to sell someday, or to the team if they were to take over some ownership, because I don't need to be there.
that's why when I talk about 5 key valuation drivers, there's
Mhm.
all sorts of things that drive a business valuation. By the way, I'll be doing some more videos on this in classes, whatever, but the KPI that no one pays attention to, the KPI that owners don't pay attention to, but they should, and that's their business valuation.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I've seen in all my research is that your valuation does grow with less dependence on the owner. So your strategy of letting go, while it isn't part of a transition plan, maybe it is, but that wasn't your
Well,
intent,
eventually, I'm not going to do this forever, Tom.
puts you in a great position. And that's why I really love what you're doing, because you're making a tangible step for your short-term happiness and success, but
Mhm.
you're also positioning your business for a easier and more lucrative transition, if I can be candid, because the business is more valuable.
Mhm.
How's the business doing without you? I mean, sales and profits.
Great. Yeah, they're doing great. I mean, we beat last year and we're moving forward. Um, I have 6 people starting for new hire orientation this month, which is really exciting because we had a hard time hiring last year. So we're doing really great. We've launched a new intern program. So we're growing people in a way that we never have before. So it's really exciting. We're doing good. And I'm going to Morocco for a month.
I love it. We need to have a side conversation. I have been to Morocco, and we'll share
Okay.
some stories. So, wow, I'm looking at the clock here. We have a little more time here. So part of this, let's get into the finance function a little bit here,
Okay.
okay? And so I'm not going to share your numbers because that's beyond the scope of these sessions, but I will tell our audience here that this is a very healthy business from a top line and a bottom line standpoint. I think the thing that I think would be interesting for people to hear about is that, oh, by the way, you did a compensation change in there too.
Uh-huh.
And that
Yes.
also had this spirit of essentialism and elimination and simplification. So why don't you talk about your before
Uh-huh.
compensation and what it is now?
Okay. Well, we were kind of old school service charge, 10% service charge, and then sliding scale commission at every level. We have a lot of levels, it's pretty complicated. And so what I decided to do was to just go 10% service charge, straight commission at each level. And the reason I decided to do that is because the sliding scale was confusing. People never knew where they were. They'd miss, an extra 2% by $50, that kind of thing, because they weren't connected with that. And I just got tired of hearing it. And same is true for retail. This one we didn't talk about earlier, Tom, but just in July, I lowered the retail per ticket benchmarks and doubled the retail commission. And it's the same thing. Everyone was like, it's not reachable, it's not reachable, it's not reachable. And I know it's reachable because there were some people reaching it. But the act of just finally saying, okay, enough's enough, and making the changes has very much increased our retail in enrollment and numbers. Also gave a global bonus to the front desk for retailing and closing everyone's sales. So, I think for me, it's just been, you do something for so long and you're so committed to it, and it's not what's essential. What's
Mm.
essential is that your people are happy and you're selling a ton of retail. That's what matters. And so how can we get there in a new way?
Yeah, and now these changes affect your leadership team and they affect the entire staff, including staff as it relates to their pocketbook.
Uh-huh.
How has turnover been? Because you mentioned turnover was high, like so many. I mean, you went from
Right,
I think it was 95 to 45, and
right.
have things stabilized in the last 2 years? I mean, how is your staff
Oh yeah.
retention the last 2 years?
Yeah, so those 45, that are still with me, plus an additional six we're getting this week, but those 45 are they've been with me for many, many years. So it was mainly the newer people that left during COVID. And what's so amazing about, where we are now is, again, one of the things us owners love talking about is how many people we have. But those people that left were not essential. And we are doing better with half the people and half the benefits and half the headaches and all of that. We did price increases. People are really busy, and they have more support. So my management team is strong and amped up to get up, our numbers up this year, but it's not essential.
That's an interesting reinterpretation of what an essential worker is.
Mhm.
Essential worker was never part of our vocabulary until the pandemic, and you've applied essential worker onto a micro level within your business. Very interesting.
Mhm.
Very interesting how you've applied a theoretical concept like essentialism that
Uh-huh.
is widely publicized. I mean, it's a hot topic right now. And it's one thing to live in the world of theory and ideas, but what I love about is the action that you've taken.
Yeah.
And truly, I mean, at Qnity, I mean, I think that if we look at our success principles, there's two of them are hitting right off the head. One is the importance of simplicity, and the other one is going from knowing to doing. So you
Right.
went from knowing that essentialism and simplicity and elimination is a powerful concept, but this is very impressive what you've done since then. So you're a doer, and we love bringing doers because it's one thing to have a light bulb moment from essentialism, but
Right.
to take that spark and to create this literal fire that you've created in your business. And I've also noticed, I've known you through the years, you definitely seem more relaxed and more peaceful. Is that a fair
Uh,
statement?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, everyone feels that for sure. My
Yeah.
family, my dog, my staff, my mom, like I've definitely had it definitely has made a difference for me. And I'm seeing on owner forums and there's so much stress and pain and there's so much going on for people right now who we had to be strong through all of this and now, we need to recover from it. And so for me, I just to tag on to some of the things you just said, what essentialism has done is to transition me from problem solving all the time to problem finding. That's what
Mm,
I'm trying to do is find out the problem and then either eliminate it or fix it. And one of the problems was that I wasn't okay. So I
mm,
needed to fix that first. It's like I had to put my mask on first, right?
mm. Wow, this is a really, really great share, Inez. And
Thanks.
I knew you brought this topic up to me when I saw you at a conference, I think, and then you were parted to 10, and we invited you to be a conversation starter. And this is what your share was about. And I missed it,
Uh-huh.
and it was great to be able to have our own version of your share on this. And I really have to congratulate you, and also thank you for being a guest on Lightbulb Moments.
So fun.
So let's everybody give Inez a virtual round of applause. Give her some love. Give her some shout outs there in the chat. And I'm starting to see it come here.
Thanks, guys.
I think this topic is going to resonate with a lot of our guests.
Mhm.
And I might have to have you back on. We might have to do a part two on this one.
That'd be awesome. There's a
Yeah.
lot more that's happened since I first started. I also have a Facebook group called Inez Says Get Real for owners if anyone wants to come talk to me more about it.
All
Just
right.
join. See
All
you
right,
guys.
you heard it out there. Inez, thanks again for joining
Uh-huh.
us. Great guest. And we'll be talking to you very soon. Let me just do a quick peek here, and we've had a few weeks off here, so I'm going to kind of run through. I don't always get a chance to do this, but I want to acknowledge because we're going to come in hot again with light bulb moments. The last few weeks with holidays was a little choppy, but want to make sure that we keep this forum going and going very strong, 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 which it will. This is going to be a very strong year for light bulb moment, and also light bulb moments at the fill. A celebration of light bulb moments is going to be the night before the fill, and it's going to be very special and very cool. And that's where we will celebrate all of our guests like Inez. And we're going to celebrate all of you who are regularly chime in on our sort of live version of this. So Anna and Andrew and Candace and Christine and Connie and Daniel and Desmond and Donna and Heather and James and Jared and Carla and Kelly, Kevin, Lisa, Melissa, a couple of Melissas, Michael, Rebecca, Roman, Sharon, Tracy, and I think we've had some other people that just peeled off. But anyway, I wanted to give all of you a somewhat belated Happy New Year, and I wish all of you great success in 2024. Send me a note if there's more topics you think we should explore, if there's things that we can make light bulb moments even better. I am going to make sure we always wrap up by 45 minutes after the hour, though, to make sure that you're free to go on to what's next. So um, nice to be with all of you again. Thanks again to our guest, Inez, and we will see you hopefully next week. Thanks much. Take care.